I'm so glad you're all joining me tonight to learn a little bit about my moon circle and how you can maybe start your own. It means the world to me that you're joining me during these really crazy, isolating times. My genuine wish is that we can all come together as a community and learn about how to do more of that moving forward, even if it is virtually right now. So tonight we're gonna share in some rituals together. We're going to do some journaling together, and hopefully you're going to learn something. And so I am just going to go ahead and mute all of us just so there's no like feedback or any issues with that. Feel free to keep your cameras on and definitely pull out your guide that I sent you in an email if you want to take some notes. You can always come back to it later. All right, guys. So I do know everyone that's here right now, but just a recap about who I am. So I am a life coach and I specialize in self-care and meditation. I incorporate mindfulness when I work with my clients to help them live the life of their dreams and heal their relationship to themselves. So that is my deepest intention with my work. And kind of a newer part that's coming up right now is that I want to help people find genuine community. And so we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. But here's some of my information, and you'll be getting all the slides and everything after as well. So as I said, you can turn your cameras on, leave them off, totally up to you. I would just recommend everyone to use the chat tonight. If you want to, you can go ahead and pop in like what you're hoping to get out of tonight's webinar, where in the world you're joining us from. I know we've got people from all over on right now. So definitely use the chat in Zoom. And you can also share like throughout the webinar when we're doing reflection time. If you want to share that more publicly, you can do that in the Zoom chat. All right. Yeah, Holly, San Antonio. Woo, woo. Love it. I'm obviously in Albuquerque, New Mexico, if you didn't know that. And Jessica, Lexington, very nice. I've got some family on the call tonight, so I'm feeling really supported. Santa Barbara, awesome. Keep the chats coming, guys. I love it. All right. So I am going to be sharing a special coaching offer at the end of the webinar. That's only for anyone who attends live tonight. So make sure that you stay on for the full hour to hear more about that. So today we're going to cover quite a few things. I really hope that you learned something and get a lot out of our webinar tonight. You can always ask me any questions if I missed anything, or there's something you want to go deeper on. Just use the chat as I mentioned before, and we're going to save some time at the end for questions. So first of all, we're going to talk about what the heck is a moon circle. A lot of people are intrigued when I mention that I have a moon circle, but they don't know what it is. They just know that they want to know more. So first we're going to dive into all the nitty-gritty details, and we're all going to set our intention. So when I started my moon circle, the first step was I had to set my intention for the community. And next, we're going to talk more about the technology side of it. I have chosen to use meetup.com for my moon circle. There's a lot of other platforms you can use, but tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about what are the benefits of using Meetup, kind of how to start your group, and even some of the drawbacks to using it and some alternatives. And we're going to go through your first meeting. So this will be your first gathering with your moon circle. If after this webinar you do decide that you want to start your own moon circle, we're going to walk through how to design the agenda for your first meeting and set it up and get it going. And next, we're going to go through the logistics for your circle and setting the agenda for your gatherings. This is something I recommend you do with your moon sisters, as I call them, once you have found them and they found you. But it's good to go ahead and start brainstorming. And there's some prompts in your guide that I sent you that'll kind of get your wheels turning and thinking about this. And so next we're going to talk about community agreements, what they are. They are not rules. They are really sort of a contract that everyone agrees to when they join your moon circle. And last but not least, we're going to talk about empowering your hosts. And there's a lot that you can do as the founder of a moon circle, but I recommend that you really rely on other people to help you host and that you support them so that everything really comes from their intuition and their heart. But first, we're going to do our own little ritual because after all, this is a circle and tonight is the new moon. And that really can symbolize a time of dreaming together, co-creation, what I call womanifestation, because tonight, once it does get dark, we won't be able to see the moon because it is a new moon. So it's kind of cloaked in shadow tonight. So it's a great time to really dream and think about what we want to create together. So a ritual can be really, really simple. I'll just go ahead and show you one of my favorite rituals. So I'm going to light a candle. That's all it is. It holds so much symbolism. And tonight, this flame is going to represent all of us coming together from wherever we are in the world in sacred sisterhood in this intentional time to learn more about community. So if you want, just bring your hands to your heart center or place them on your belly, just wherever feels good. You can close your eyes if it feels okay. And we're just going to take 3 deep breaths together. So just take a deep breath in, filling your lungs completely, and sigh it out through your mouth. Again, breathe in deeply and sigh it out. One more time, breathe in and sigh it out. And keeping your eyes closed, just really land in your body. Land in this experience, in this time that we have together. Come home to the present moment and just feel everything you're feeling. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So that was a really, really simple ritual. I mean, everything can be ritual if it has a symbol and a meaning for you and it represents your experience and it makes meaning of your life. So just remember that it can be really, really simple. That's one we start a lot of our moon circles off with lighting a candle, setting our shared intention, and doing some breathing. All right, so what the heck is a moon circle? So a moon circle is a diverse community of women who meet based on the cycles of the moon to honor the sacred feminine, share in safe space together, and co-create rituals to make meaning of their individual and shared lives. So what does that mean? So first of all, it's a diverse community. I don't know about you guys, but I was raised in the church, and when I decided to leave the church, I really started to miss out on the diversity of community. So diverse age ranges, people from different backgrounds, people with different political beliefs even. I really felt that once I left college, I no longer had the same level of community, except maybe with my coworkers who you can't really talk about anything with. So that was one of the biggest things that my moon circle gave to me, was a diverse community. So it usually is made up of women, and my moon circle is made up of women. We use women with an X to be more inclusive of folks who don't subscribe to gender norms. But it is definitely women focused, and that has been really meaningful for a lot of us to find space where we can share in sort of this patriarchal context. So we meet based on the cycles of the moon. And that is because the moon is really a symbol for what is going on in we see it as a symbol for what's going on kind of in our own lives and in our own emotions. So you don't have to be an astrologist to really get this. I mean, if you have ever had a period, you know that it's usually a 28-day cycle, and that's the same as the moon. So there's this connection already between women and the moon. And a little bit about moon phases. So you can meet at any time, really, but we tend to tie it to the moon for symbolic reasons. So we've got our new moon, which would be like the totally dark sky. It begins to wax until it is a full moon, and then it wanes until it is a new moon again. And that cycle happens about every 28 days or so. And as I said, tonight is the new moon. In about 2 weeks, it'll be the full moon, and that is when my moon circle meets, is every month or month, which is where the word month comes from, on the full moon. But you could also choose to meet on the new moon. So there's symbolism for each. As I mentioned before, the new moon is traditionally like a time for dreaming, creating, manifesting, and kind of designing what you want to achieve. And then as you grow into the full moon, it's a time for celebration, harvesting, fulfillment, and then you begin to kind of wane again back toward creation. So that's sort of the symbolism of the moon. If you don't already, I would recommend just getting like a simple moon app on your phone, or looking at the sky more and just tracking the moon cycles and seeing how it relates to your own emotional experience. It's been a really helpful practice for me. So next, a moon circle is a group. Oh, well, we already went through that. So they honor the sacred feminine. So what the hell does that mean? So this is sort of a traditional way of looking at the sacred feminine versus the sacred masculine. A lot of healers in this space will use this gendered terminology, which I kind of have issues with, but kind of like at the same time. So basically, the sacred feminine you can see as the moon, whereas the sacred masculine is represented by the sun. And just like the moon and the sun, the feminine can be seen as the nighttime and the masculine is the daytime. The feminine is more being in your body, sort of that grounding energy, whereas the masculine is more in the head, the thinking. The sacred feminine is more around being, so like sitting in stillness like we just did, whereas the sacred masculine has more to do with doing. And as you can see at the end, the sacred feminine is more inclined to intuitive thinking, where the sacred masculine is more about analytical thinking. So we definitely need both. And I think the idea behind calling them feminine and masculine is to remind us that we need a balance. And everyone needs a balance, men, women, everyone in between. And the whole world needs to be brought more into balance. And I think right now with this crazy pandemic, we're all realizing just how much we needed a moment maybe to ourselves and to sit and to be quiet. It brings up a lot in a lot of us. Definitely is bringing up a lot in me. I don't know about you guys. But as I said, there are issues with using this gendered language. I don't like how it's exclusive and makes gender, more of a binary, making it sound like you have to choose the sacred feminine or the sacred masculine. There are other ways of describing this, but I really have liked using sacred feminine. As a feminist, it just sort of works for me. I realize that I'm very privileged as a cisgendered woman to use that terminology and like identify with it in my own body. And it is something that we chose to do in our moon circle. And we do have trans women in the circle who also identify with this language. So far, it's going all right for us. So a moon circle shares in safe space together. So what does that mean? I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times in my life, people come up to me and they want to make small talk. I'm a bartender, so I have to make so much small talk every day, and I really hate it. And sometimes I just want to tell people how I'm really feeling and how I'm really doing. When they ask me, like, I want to just be like, oh yeah, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm not doing great, but you feel like so much pressure to always have these positive emotions or to be fine. And a moon circle is a place where you can come and actually not be fine and just come as you are and be held in this space by other women. You can share your experience without them trying to fix you, which is super rare. I have a lot of friends who, when I share some struggle that I'm going through, they jump right in with suggestions and advice. And I know that they mean well, but sometimes we just need to say how we're doing and have someone listen. And that's called holding space for someone. So that's been the best part of my moon circle. And finally, the moon circle co-creates rituals to make meaning of their individual and shared lives. So we just did a simple ritual together. It really can be that easy. Ritual is a beautiful way to really make the internal external and do it in a community, again, where everyone kind of is on the same page and is symbolizing their shared experience. So I just wanted to share this little reading. This is from the Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. If you guys don't know who they are, I highly recommend Googling them. But if you want to close your eyes, you can, or follow along, but I'm just gonna read this from them. And this is about the current coronavirus pandemic, and to me really symbolizes something women would say in my moon circle. So they say, as you move through these changing times, be easy on yourself and be easy on one another. You are at the beginning of something new. You are learning a new way of being. You will find that you are working less in the yang modes that you are used to. You will stop working so hard at getting from point A to point B the way you have in the past, but instead will spend more time experiencing yourself in the whole and your place in it. Instead of traveling to a goal out there, you will voyage deeper into yourself. Your mother's grandmother knew how to do this. Your ancestors from long ago knew how to do this. They knew the power of the feminine principle. And because you carry their DNA in your body, this wisdom and this way of being is within you. Call on it, call it up, invite your ancestors in. As the yang-based habits and the decaying institutions on our planet begin to crumble, look up. A breeze is stirring. Feel the sun on your wings, or in our case, the moon. So the yang modes that they're talking about, that's sort of the sacred masculine, and where the yin would be like the sacred feminine that we were talking about before. So if you haven't pulled out your guide already, you're going to need it for this next part. So go ahead and close your eyes and imagine your moon circle. Even if you joined tonight thinking, I'm not really going to start one, just enlighten me here and visualize what the heck I'm talking about and what it could potentially look like in your life. Where are you? Who is there with you? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? What are you guys doing? What are you learning from them? And is there something deep within you that you long to share with them? How will you be transformed? What is your deepest intention for this moon circle? All right, open your eyes and you can write down your intention in the guide or in your journal if you prefer, or you can drop it in the chat. It can be one word or a sentence or all of the things that you just visualized. Just take notes on it. So I'm going to share a little bit about my story with starting my moon circle. I might get emotional. It's been a really transformative experience for me, individually and in community. I always longed for a deep spiritual community where everyone could believe how they believed and share that belief in a safe space, without fear of judgment, without fear of being controlled or trying to be changed or fixed, as I said. I always had this really weird kind of FOMO where I thought that like everyone else had this deep spiritual community and I was somehow being left out of it. That was a fear I had for years and years. I always felt isolated. I always felt lonely. Even when I got married, I didn't understand. Like, shouldn't this have taken care of the problem? And when I was living in DC, I actually had a friend invite me to her moon circle. And I knew as soon as she told me what it was, that it was everything I'd been looking for. And yet I never went. I was so terrified. I thought I wasn't going to belong. I made up every excuse, but deep down I thought this is going to be a bunch of hippie woo-woo witchy shit, and they're going to see right through me, and they're going to see that I'm not experienced, that I don't know how to lead ritual, that I've never done this. It's just going to be so obvious to them, and I won't belong. And I realize now that that is all of our deepest longing, is to belong. And when it comes down to it, I didn't believe I was worthy enough of belonging. And it wasn't until I moved to New Mexico that I'd made a choice that I was going to be worthy, that I was going to know my own worthiness, whatever it took. And so one night my husband came home and I was laying on my yoga mat just crying my eyes out. And he was like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I am just so lonely." And he was like, "We have tons of friends. You have friends all over the world. Can't you just call someone, or can't we just go out with someone?" And I was like, that is not what I'm talking about. Like, I am talking about a community where I can share every piece of my spiritual experience, my emotional experience, what's going on with my mental health, what my fears are, what my biggest dreams are, where I can create ritual and where I can hold space for others. And he was like, yeah, I don't know what that is. And I remembered the moon circle that my friend had told me about. And I was like, oh, I'm in Albuquerque. Like, this place has got to be crawling with these woo-woo people that I was so afraid to join before. And like, it's the land of the spiritual people and the witchiness and all of the types of people I imagined for my moon circle. But when I got on meetup.com, and I think I looked on Facebook as well, and I Googled Albuquerque Moon Circle, there were no results. There was nothing even close to a moon circle, like a women's like spiritual group or anything like that. I was so shocked. I could not believe it. And I was so bummed, you know, I wanted to be invited into this thing again. And I heard this voice whisper to me, if you don't start it, who will? And I realized that I was envisioning this community of women who were very much out there, but who were also waiting to be invited in. And I realized that it was my opportunity to do it myself. And of course, like a million excuses came to my mind at first. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I've never even been to a moon circle. Just because I want this doesn't mean I can create it. But then I realized, like, again, there were people out there longing for this too. And I could very much be the one to do it. And so I kind of bit the bullet and I decided if I got one moon sister, that would be one person that understood me and understood what I was longing for, and that we could create circle together. And so I did it. I started the meetup group, and overnight I had 40 members. And my jaw hit the floor. Like, I could not believe it. There were 40 people out there just like me who were looking for the same thing. And on our first gathering, there were like 10 of us. We all looked into each other's eyes and just cried because we realized that we were the same and that we had the same intention, the same longing, and that we had done it and that we had created the community that we had wanted. So that's my story. So the thing that got me through that experience was this courageous vulnerability. And that's really become a theme for our moon circle, because every time someone joins, they're being courageous and they're being vulnerable. And I think those go together. I mean, don't you? Like, all the times that you've really found courage, you've had to be vulnerable. And every time you're vulnerable with someone, that takes immense courage. And so every time someone comes to a gathering, I mean, they have the same deer in headlights look in their eyes, but they came anyway, and they soon find a community of women who are just like them. So in your guide, there's some questions we're going to go through pretty quickly because I see it's already 6:30. So I'll just kind of speak to these questions. If you want to jot some notes down, go ahead. You can always come back to these later. I'll be sharing the slides with you. So the first one is to define authentic community for yourself. Like, what does it really mean to be in community with another person or with a group of people? Next, what social barriers are holding us back from experiencing that community? What am I holding back in relationship to others, and why? Like, why aren't we honest? What do I feel others are holding back from me? Do you ever get that nagging feeling that people just aren't being 100% real? And why do you think that is? What is holding me back or has held me back from starting this moon circle? Is it fear of your time commitment? That's a big one. Whatever it is, name it. You can drop it in the chat if you want. What am I afraid will happen if I start this moon circle? Like, what's gonna go down? And to take that to the extreme, what is the worst thing you can possibly imagine would happen if you started such a group? Is it how people will see you? Is it that no one will join? Like, what is that thing? So I realized that for my worst case scenario, it was that no one would join. And that would still be better than me sitting around in my loneliness, just waiting for that community to show up. So I literally had nothing to lose. All right, so the next step, you're gonna write what I call a womanifesto. So it's your manifesto for your moon circle. And there's 5 different elements. And these are also in your guide. So it's just like a couple sentences on each. This is your siren's call to your moon sisters. So you need to write something that's gonna let them know what's up and what this group is and what's gonna happen if they join. And this is the way that you craft that invitation to those moon sisters who are already out there waiting for you. And eventually it will become the about section of your meetup group. So you can kind of glance through these and take some notes if you wish, or you can come back to it later. But it's just a couple sentences on each. So this is mine. I'm not going to read through it, but it's got all the elements there. It's just something I pulled up a Google Doc and typed it out when I decided to start my moon circle. So we're going to talk about Meetup next. I don't know if you guys have ever used Meetup. I had never been to a Meetup in my life, but I'm so glad that I decided to go with this platform. It has been the way that I found all of my moon sisters. There are some downsides to Meetup. So first of all, the cost, we're going to talk about that. If you are the leader of a group, there is a cost associated with that, but you can always offset it by charging monthly dues to your members or charging for events. That can help you offset the costs. There can also be a low joiner to attendee rate with Meetup. That means that you might get a lot of members really quickly because they have like nothing to lose by joining your Meetup group, but then you might have quite a few fewer people actually come to the in-person events. And a lot of the times that's just out of fear. And then there are some privacy concerns as well. Even if you make it a private meetup, all of your event information is always going to be public. So really be careful about what you share on the platform and try to use like their direct messaging service for those more private details, like the host's address and cell number, things like that. But there are so many upsides. Meetup has a huge user base, 35 million users. There's a lot of people on Meetup who are looking for in-person or virtual gatherings. It's super recognized and trusted, easy to use, and they have calendar and email integration. So if you do decide to go with Meetup, it could not be more easy. I'm not going to walk you through it, but just go to meetup.com and click start a meetup in the top right corner, and it's just going to walk you through your prompts. This is going to be where you will paste your manifesto once you write that those 5 elements I was talking about before. It's just a quick copy paste into this step of starting your meetup group. That's what I did, and I've had a lot of women say, like, when I read what you wrote, I knew it was for me. So really be intentional with that. Another thing I just wanted to point out again is the privacy. It's prohibited to post people's private information without their consent on Meetup. So just make sure when you do start to get hosts for your events that they know, of course, you will be sharing their address. It seems silly, but you do need to be explicit about that. And then always share it in a private message with each confirmed attendee, as I said. So the cost of Meetup, I didn't know there was a cost for it. I ended up going for the 6-month subscription. It's cheaper overall. It is kind of pricey though, and I can see how this would be a hurdle for a lot of people. I was really lucky that I could invest that in this community, and I wanted to, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with people charging monthly dues or charging for individual events to help offset the costs. And there is a way in Meetup to do that really seamlessly. And lots of people pay for Meetup. Like, it's not going to be weird if you charge like a $5 monthly due to your circle. First, before I do this, I'm just going to show you guys what my Meetup group looks like real quick. So this is my Meetup. It's just Albuquerque Moon Circle. And I created this little graphic with canva.com. It's a free graphic design tool. Highly recommend it. You could just pop any old picture in there, of course. And this is my manifesto, as I mentioned before, right there. It's got all of our events organized here. We do have a virtual circle coming up for the full moon because of coronavirus. So that's going to be interesting. I think Meetup is a great way to host virtual and in-person events. Just kind of get the information out there. And then it'll show all of my past events and any drafts that I have. We did a Galentine's Day event that was super fun. We just like met up at a local brewery. So it doesn't always have to be like these organized, sacred, intense ceremonies. Like, you can have fun with it. Everyone can plan field trips, just get weird with it. And then there's also a place for discussions. I'm not going to show because of privacy reasons, but it's just a place where people can ask a question like, hey, what are your intentions for the next moon cycle? Or like, I'll constantly be like, who wants to host next? So yeah, that's the Meetup. And there is right here, this is how to create an event. It's super, super simple. I just make a title, time and date. Again, you can add a featured photo, a description of the event. I always try to include here, like, if there's anything they need to bring for the event, which I work out with the host beforehand. And if they want to go ahead and start thinking about the sharing questions, which we're going to talk about, sometimes the host wants them to do that. But I don't share addresses or phone numbers here. I always direct message those. And now they've got this fun, make it an online event. That's cool. And then you'll be the organizer, and you can always add your hosts down here. The last thing I want to flag on events is attendee limits. We cap every single event. It's just the way it is. We have almost 100 members in our Meetup. We can't have them all coming to every single circle. That would be wild. We don't have space for that, and it would just be, there wouldn't be enough room for everyone to share, obviously. So we do cap events, usually 15 or so. It's always up to the host and their space limitations. Something we're trying to do now, or we're talking about doing, is every 3 months doing a more public gathering so that we can get more people. So whether it's a brewery, a park, someone who has a bigger house, whatever, just to really open the circle up. You can handle this however you want. Maybe you want the same 10 people or the same 5 people, or maybe you want it to be open every single time. Those are things that you're gonna wanna think through and talk about with your members. And then this is, like I was saying, how you can charge a fee if you want. All right. So just some things to consider for your very first gathering is if you want it to be a public or private space, maybe you want to start hosting right away in your home. We actually held ours at a restaurant outside. It was really, really lovely, and it made everyone, I think, feel safe and at ease for that first meeting. Think about what your attendee limit might be, when you want to host, is it based on a cycle of the moon, and go ahead and think through your agenda a little bit. And we're going to talk more about co-creating your vision and community agreements with your circle in that first meeting. So circle logistics, as I said, this is something I would recommend you to think through before your first event, but with wiggle room. I think it's really important with a circle. It's a non-hierarchical structure. So the goal is to reach consensus on everything. Like, you are the founder, but you don't want to position yourself as a leader to the point where people are defaulting to you. This was important to me so that it really could be a co-created space. And it's definitely true with your logistics, your community agreements, and just the overall vision of your circle. You're going to want to leave it kind of open to the group as well, even as you sort of lead the way. So there are some spaces in your guide to think through these questions. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll share a little bit about what we do in my circle. So I already talked about how many attend each circle. We leave it up to the host, as I said. And then if you do set a limit on the attendees in Meetup, there will be a wait list generated once that is capped. So how do you want to deal with the wait list? We actually reach out to people on the wait list to see if they want to start a second circle that happens at the same time. So that's one idea. If that's like getting a little too much with it, I think it's fine also just to be explicit about what's going to happen if someone's on the wait list. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on that's in your guide is where will gatherings typically be held, who will host. It was really important to me to not feel overwhelmed with the burden of hosting every month. I kept saying to people, as long as there are hosts, I will not host. Like, I want to be a support, and that was all I could handle. And it's important that you're also really honest about what you can handle. And it's a great exercise in asking for help. So I've only had to host once in 7 months. And like, it was super fun and great to host, but it's really, really nice to be invited into other people's spaces, let them lead the way. So just something to think about. And then the other one I wanted to touch on in your guide is just how you'll handle privacy and safety. So we actually leave it to the host to decide whether or not they will be welcoming to new members in their space. And that's because your home is like your sacred space. And, you know, maybe you don't want strangers walking in off the street into your house. And I think that's for each host to decide. Most of our hosts are totally open to new sisters who have just joined the meetup coming to their home. Others would like to meet them at a coffee shop beforehand. Others just say, like, sorry, I can't host new members at this time. So I always put that in the event description just so we're really explicit, which is something to think about. So really quickly, I'm going to show you our agenda that we use. You're more than welcome to use it as a template for your own gatherings. It's a template for my hosts. They don't have to use it. It's just sort of a starting point. And as I said, you'll be getting all the slides. So we don't have to go through each point right now. There's always some socializing involved. There's always announcements. We light a candle to start and we do a little opening ritual just like we did. And then there might be a time to share an altar item. So an altar item can be just something that each sister brings to place on a table in the middle of the circle that has maybe a connection to the theme of the moon or the month, or maybe it's just something they want to share. It's almost like share and tell or show and tell from like preschool. Like I miss those days. So we brought it back and it's awesome. And sometimes the host will lead us in a talk. Other times we just jump right into the sharing questions. That is the heart of any moon circle. I think it's really important, if you don't do anything else, just share with each other. Let the host come up with 2 or 3 questions, and maybe one at a time you just go around and everyone gets space and time to really be held in that supportive, safe space. We use a talking stick. It's actually right here. So you can't talk unless you're holding the stick. And again, back to preschool, but it really works. I mean, it's a great reminder. I think we all need to relearn how to listen. And no matter what age you are, we have women in the circle in their 70s. I mean, they need the stick too. We all need the stick. So I highly recommend it. And then we usually have some healing space, which is open to crosstalk. So you don't have to use the stick, but people can share if anything kind of triggered something in them or they want to clear the air. It can be a challenging space, but I think it's important to include. And then we usually do gaze at the moon, and sometimes we howl at the moon together and really just release all of our wonderful energy together. And then we will close with a little ritual and extinguish the candle. And like I said, this is just a template. We don't stick to this point by point. So really quickly, community agreements, as I said, they're not rules. They're just some things that you want to discuss with your circle, maybe some behaviors that are off limits or some topics that will be off limits. And I say that with love. Obviously, people slip up and they don't know. So it's just sort of the guidelines for your organization. And these are some things that you can consider. So you're basically going to take your guide once we're done and you've made all of your notes about your thoughts, and you're going to bring it to your first gathering and then get everyone's input. And like I said, it's a circle, so you're trying to reach consensus. That's really important. And then it'll be your job to put it all together in a Google Doc and just share the link on the meetup page and say, hey guys, like, we all need to read through this. If there are any issues, if there are any conflicts, if I didn't capture something right, or if something is concerning to you, bring it up to me or bring it up in circle and we will discuss it and work through it. It's a living document. All of these things are constantly changing and evolving. So finally, empowering your hosts. So I have some tips for you. So as I said before, it's really your responsibility to ask for help when you need it. And if nothing else, this is a great thing that you're going to get out of founding your circle, is asking people to help you, whatever way that is, whether it's hosting in their house, bringing food, coming up with ideas for ritual or activities, just ask for help. And number 2, really support them with whatever they need. Most of the time, that's just inspiration and encouragement. Like most of the time, they're just going to be like, I've never created a ritual. Do you have any ideas? Or at the last minute, they're going to look at you like they are so terrified and they've forgotten how to speak. And you might have to speak for them or just encourage them at the last minute. And number 3, just really allow them to lead. I know I keep repeating this, but it's so important. It's a real honor to lead a moon circle and to host and to facilitate these talks, to come up with the questions, to come up with the rituals. And each sister will have something unique to share. So really letting it come from them and their intuition is a gift that you're giving them and you're giving yourself. So I am going to share with you the survey that I created. Again, as a template, if you want to use it, I made a copy. It's just a Google form. It's how I get all of the hosts' information before the event. And I ask them if they're comfortable coming up with ritual or if they're going to need some guidance. I always jump on a call with the host before the gathering just to kind of talk through things. You can handle this however you want. If it's a repeat host, you don't need to get on the phone again. They know what's up. But especially in the beginning, people I don't think, we might have had one or two that had been to a moon circle before, but the vast majority of us had never been to one, let alone led one. So these are just some ideas for you to get started. And this is, again, in your guide. And you will share this link on your meetup page as well when you ask people to host. And then you'll get a notification, someone's filled out the form. You'll just read through their answers and schedule that call with them. And these are just sort of the ways you can support the host before the circle, during the circle, and after the circle. I won't go through all of them, but it's just the ways that you're going to help empower them to lead. And if you have any questions at the end, we can cover them. I do, as I said, direct message each attendee the day before the event. This is like my little template that I use. It's always the same. I put in the address and the phone number. I really recommend you don't give out your phone number for this purpose. I did that at the beginning and I didn't know where the heck the host lived. I had never been there. People were calling me, asking for directions. It was a nightmare, so don't do that. Give them the host's contact information and remind them to update their RSVP. That's another big one. People will at the last minute drop out, but then they're taking up space where someone on the wait list could have joined. These are some ways to support them during the circle. Really attune to your host, be her shadow, be her rock. Let her know that you've got her, that you're so proud of her and so grateful, and kind of just be there for whatever she needs. And even after the circle, make sure you thank them, update any notes. If you keep a log, update the log, and then you're going to start planning the next one. It's really that easy. All right, guys, so that is my kind of how to start your moon circle. It is my deepest hope to see more women in circle where they feel connected, supported, where they can relearn kind of what we've forgotten as a culture, which is how to be in our bodies, how to honor the earth, how to honor the moon, and honor each other with active listening and safe space. And we're all kind of flying by the seat of our pants and making it up as we go along, and that's what makes it so beautiful. So you made it to the end. Gonna go ahead and share my webinar exclusive deal. So good for you, you made it. If you attended today's session live, I'm giving away a 1-hour self-care coaching session for $20. In this session, we can really talk about anything, but my expertise, as I said, is really helping people kind of heal the relationship to themselves, talk about any negative self-talk or inner critic hurdles that they're coming up against. I like to help people design their own rituals for taking care of themselves every day. But we could also focus on any blocks that come up when you imagine starting your moon circle and kind of coach around that. So if you want in on this deal, DM me New Moon Special. You can do it in any of these ways. You can throw it in the chat. You can throw it in the private Zoom chat to me right now, or hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or email. I really hope you all take advantage of this. I have a lot of time on my hands, as I'm sure some of us do. I was temporarily laid off from my brewery job, So definitely have a lot of time. And I'm looking to use this time to really spread the word about self-care and community building and just really launch the next phase of my work. So, any questions before we do a little closing ritual? If you do have a question, feel free to unmute yourself. Or if you just want to share something like what came up for you, what you learned, feel free to do that now. And I'm going to kind of glance through the chat to see if I missed anything.
Hey, Ellen. This is Claire.
Claire Bear.
And Quinn. You want to say hi, Quinn?
Hello.
When this just made me think of a good experience that our family had on the winter solstice. Our church had a bonfire, and we all went out. Well, first they had a service, and they lit candles and put them on a tree and had some songs and poetry. And then we all filed outside to the woods behind the church, and they had a bonfire.
Wow.
And they made us like face west and face east and face north and south, and they had readings for each of those directions. And then everybody had to like look up at the sky, at the moon, and say like, "Welcome, winter."
I love that.
Yeah, and it was very meaningful, and we live in Minnesota, so it helped us get us in the mood for winter time and celebrate winter instead of dreading it. And it felt like it made you feel ancient, and just knowing that solstice had been observed for all those thousands of years. And the fact that it was at nighttime, that made it even more just like mystical feeling.
Yes. That's so beautiful,
so that's
Claire. Thank you for sharing that. The one moon circle I did host was around the winter solstice, and we designed a winter solstice ritual that also involved candles, and it was just super meaningful to even research about sort of some of the sacred traditions of like indigenous folks that have been long lost, or maybe not lost, but just definitely it's not in the majorative like religions these days. So it was really cool to like resurface those and experience them, as you said. Anybody else have anything they want to share? I do see a question from Caitlin. How much do you think place factors into the community you intend to build? Now that your circle is virtual, anyone anywhere could theoretically join. Is there something especially sacred about sharing a physical community, either at the time of meeting or in the long run? That's a great question, Caitlin. I definitely think, and I've been grappling with this, right? Like, there's something super special about being with people in person. I think we're all feeling right now the withdrawal of that. Maybe we took it for granted before. Maybe once all this coronavirus madness is over, we're gonna like leap into deep community in person. There is something really, really special about being, especially in someone's home. It's been really fun to see how everyone sort of decorates and what the energy of their space feels like, and how that can empower the host again to really take charge. Like, okay, I'm in my space. I can be courageously vulnerable. And I'm gonna have to let you know how April goes. We have not had a virtual moon circle yet, so it's gonna be really interesting. I will be hosting that one. And I think it's gonna be good. I'm looking forward to it. There's gonna be challenges for sure, but I welcome them. All right, that's the only question on the chat. Is there anything else or anything anyone wants to share before we do our closing ritual?
You did a great job. And I started Googling moon circles in San Antonio, and I was kind of surprised to find that there is one. It's called like moon diva goddesses or something, but it has a cost of $25 and it looks like they meet every month, but I think I'd like to check it out and see how it goes and then kind of maybe I don't like it, start my own or like, but I never even thought to look because I was like, oh, San Antonio's so conservative and there's so many Mormons, which I love the Mormons. There's a lot of them. They would never do this. So anyway, this was great. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Holly. That's such a great point. I think I should have mentioned before, like I thought I was going to get all these super woo-woo people, like every single person I imagine would be the same. We are all so different. Like we have witches, we have Christians, we have people all in between. We've got pagans, atheists, like everyone is welcome. Everyone has something to share. Some
Are there any
people,
Mormons?
I don't know, not that have told me that they are yet. But everyone has something to bring, you know, and so that's the diverse piece. And like you will have something to offer that circle as well. So just, I think having an open mind and an open heart and an open spirit is like the biggest thing. Let us know how it goes. All right. Well, guys, unless there's anything else, we're going to extinguish the candle. So first, if you just want to close your eyes again and take a deep breath in and out. And just land here again and feel how you feel at the end of this hour that we've shared together in community. Maybe notice anything that came up in you around courage and vulnerability, around your fears in community. Whatever it is, it's welcome. Notice it. Make a mental note of it. And send it love. And then take another deep breath in. And sigh it out. So you can open your eyes. I'm going to extinguish the candle. Though the candle will be extinguished, we are all still connected in our hearts and in our spirits and in this experience that we just shared together and in our shared intention to learn more about how we can connect with people during these bizarre, isolating times. I am here for each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Namaste. All right, guys, please reach out to me if you have any questions. I really hope you'll all go out and start your own moon circles. And I'm so excited to hear about the community that you create. Take care.